I know you mentioned like when you started, you guys were like they did aspects of it, and then Pam handles the dancing and you handles the drumming and whatever street art. And my question is, someone mentioned that your dances are like they're rooted in Mali and Senegal, which is like most of like West Africa, and the drumming, like most of it seems to be centralized in West Africa. So like who taught you these dances? Who teaches you how to play these drums? How to like who from those places has taught you this? How have you learned this? It's kind of like my question.
So my original drumming teacher was Baba Kenyatta Henry. I met him in Delaware, and he was the first person that I knew that actually taught me to drum, gave me the drum that you guys saw today, gave me that drum back then in 2003. And so he was the first person to begin to teach me. And so as I would go to his classes every week, similar to what we do every Tuesday, right? I would go to his classes in Wilmington, Delaware, when I lived in Dover, Delaware. I would go to those classes and he would teach a whole class, and then it would be sectioned off by drum, and then there was a whole dance component that was also going on. So in terms of the biggest presence that I've seen in terms of learning the drumming comes from someone that you guys may know as Mama Decatur, who recently has passed. So these are the biggest teachers for me in terms of like learning the drumming. So, and then when we come into the classroom, or not the classroom, rehearsal, then you learn more because you're seeing the actual dances. So it's one thing to see something online, right? You can Google, like me, like Googling on YouTube and looking all around, okay, well, what about this rhythm? What about that rhythm? What is the history of it? Well, what is the purpose of it? When is it done? Like, so this is, you know, how you begin to understand it more, because just like what Tara was saying earlier, it's like there'll be a different interpretation of the same like rhythm, and the dances, the steps are similar, but then they're different. So for me, I try to find a teacher, and so right now, I have teachers here, right? So Papa Isaac is critical, he is very knowledgeable, and he will give you the eye when you are not in the right place. So, you know, that has been kind of my train of teaching. Is the original teacher I had, Baba Kenyatta, and then I did my own studies. I would watch videos, I would listen, I would watch, I would practice on my steering wheel as I'm driving. Then when you come into class, it's live, because you see dancers, and they're and you know, and if you're in the wrong place, you will know that you're in the wrong place, because the dancers will say, "What you doing?" You know. So that's kind of how, for me anyway, that's how it has gone. So it's a progression.
Yeah. So let me speak to this really quickly too. So I want you to write this down now.
Write it down.
I want you to write this down. Okay. So everybody here, each individual has learned differently and has their own individual path. And they're on, I would say, on different levels in terms of how they learn and where it's come from, what kind of sources. So what I would recommend is a book out. It is called Djembe Revolution. It's by a man named Kojo Bay. You can get it on Amazon very easily. And I recommend this book because it really speaks more to really what your question is, because it's each one individually, but what you're asking, how have the people on this side of the water learned this, and what has been the process and the progression of that? So if you read that book, it's going to tell you who a lot of the teachers are, the people who started teaching here, because all of these people in some way or another, no matter how they say, descend from out of that book. So for instance, she's mentioning this brother that she just mentioned. Well, he studied with these men that were in Philadelphia, and them, right? And those guys got it. So that book really tells you the history of African dance and drumming, all of this in America. And I guess they can individually tell you their own teachers or whatever.
Can I rephrase my question?
Yes.
It's a bit, like, my question is, yes, I appreciate where you've learned the dances. Is how do you guys ensure that the dances you are dancing are correct, like to the places of origin? You mentioned the playing of Ingwani. How do you ensure that like you're playing it correctly? Like, is there a connection to the places of origin of these dances
Yeah.
and these instruments?
So this is what I was saying, look, it's really answering your question. When you do that, you'll see. It's going to speak exactly what you're saying. So let's say myself, okay? I studied many years with a man, his name is Papalaji Kumara. He was the lead drummer for Les Ballet Africains. That was the National Ballet of Guinea. These were the, and this is before, this was like the first ballet. Because prior to this ballet that he was in, there were no ballets. There were the people in the villages doing the traditional dance. The president of Guinea was Sekou Touré. Sekou Touré was a unionist. That's how he came to power, through the social unions and political unions. Harry Belafonte was also in that movement, the labor movement. Harry Belafonte goes to Guinea to visit based on that. This was a political meeting, but at the palace, Sekou Touré had brought many artists from the different ethnic groups. Because all the ethnic groups, like the ballet you go see today, it's blended. Before it was the individual, the Baga did what the Baga did. The Toma was the Toma in the village. The Malinke was the Malinke. The Susu along the border. The Baga up on the coast. Each was individual. The first national ballet was a part of making unity by bringing the various artists together. And it was a man, just interestingly, from outside of Guinea that came and said, Sekou, you have to make a ballet. You have to bring all this together so the world can really see what you do. So myself, that's the root. My teacher, that's his culture. I went to his village. So I don't do me, I can play a lot of things, but if I teach you, it's only the things that my teacher taught him, and I know that's the truth. Okay, so if you say, Aziz, show me, but I don't teach all the dance. But if I show you Sa, if I show you Sidar, if I teach you Koma, all of this, it's from the village. It's from before. So that's how I can say what I do is exact. It's the same thing for the mass traditions that I do. Okay, everything has been taught to me like that. I don't study nothing from videos or that way. I don't do nothing by word of mouth or nothing like that. And in the true way, when you have a teacher, a true teacher, because many people, they take classes. It's just like, oh, take classes. That's a way of learning, but that's not a teacher. In Africa, to have a teacher is like a mentor. You have to spend a specific length of time to be with them, to say that you're that person. You know what I'm saying? I have to bring him food. I don't even want to go into my whole process of the things I did and the things he had to do for me. Because also we say all true knowledge is secret. Some of you might know that. You have to be careful because, to be honest with you, some of my brothers from Guinea don't even know what I know. Yeah. Some of them have been tainted, by Islam, by Christianity, or just by a lot of Western thought. My teacher was before that time, is what I'm saying. So I learned that way. To be quite frankly, it makes it sometimes even difficult me working with my artists and friends right here, because I have a particular way that my teacher said you have to do.
If to answer your question, this is how we know.
Yeah.
Did you see the eye? Did you see the
I was about to say,
This is the eye I was talking about.
Whether we right or wrong, between Papa, between
Oh,
Baba
sorry.
and Baba, we have an extensive bucket of wealth and knowledge.
But my sister here,
Yeah.
okay, so her, like what she's talking about, okay, her teacher, she spent several years with her. She was from this ballet too, but she's much younger than my teacher was. She's like the next generation that was after. Her name was Kadiatu Conte. She came here in another ballet in '85 that was called Joliba. And after they got stuck, you have to know the whole story, but some of them, because of the relationships they developed, decided to come back. Now this woman, she didn't really, see again, they thought they would teach her them dance. Because she would show them that, but that wasn't her real purpose. Most people would say that. That's what most people would say. She was a dancer, but she finished that when she left Joliba. when she took these people, they were to be her daughters, she was teaching them about culture, because the culture is what the foundation of the dance. It doesn't sit outside of that. The way you eat, it's part of the way you dance. The way you're supposed to put your clothes on. Like she's talking about the dance to teach you tomorrow. Okay, it's simple enough to just say, oh, we're gonna do that dance and it's called this and it's called that. But that dance speaks to the way of being a woman. For the Susu woman, Yankadi. Okay, so it's not just a dance for the sake of dance. In it is all kind of cultural cues. You know, even my dancers, they don't know, but you wear your lapa, a certain length, tells you whether you are available to be married, whether you've been married already, or whether your husband is, your lapa, the length. See, girls here, they wear they like to wear the beads. The beads don't go outside unless you, well, I see some of y'all nodding. Y'all know what it's supposed to mean, actually. So this is what she was teaching them, how to be a proper African woman and using the dance as a means of saying the culture. So a lot of people have different. Some people it is just, oh, we went to a class and they taught this dance. And that's not true. And the reason why I look at them sometimes, because most folklore dances they're doing only have like 2 steps. There's only like 2 steps. But here, if I came to you tomorrow and said, oh, my class is $25 and I show you 2 steps, you ain't coming back next week. That ain't enough. See, Americans. The other thing, we like that microwave. We want stuff instant. That's why many people say, teach me, and I don't teach nobody here drum. I send them to people that I know have the patience to teach them the way they want to be taught. Because they don't have the discipline, they couldn't go through the discipline that I went through with my teacher, which is the traditional way, because it's not about drumming, it's about building good character. So this is how you know if stuff is right. If the person is teaching you to put you on stage, just to put on stage, I don't know what you're getting. But if the person kept coming back to you talking about character, your character, and how you're supposed to be as a human being, then you're probably learning right, which is very difficult to get even here, for most. Because they're teaching you for, like everything, for money. How do I make the most money? You know, how do I make things accessible? That's why nobody don't talk about the spirituality of this. You don't hear it. Because some people don't want to hear it. We don't want to get into that, because why? That means when you start talking spirit, and spirit, that means what? I have to act a certain way and carry myself a certain way. Maybe now I can't wear my little booty dress up in here and then run out and do all these different things I like to do. Because this is speaking to something else. Nobody is zipped. And a lot of young people, the world is the same. In the time of my teacher, your family did not want you to be a djembe, what they call a djembe fola. The person who played the djembe, that drum, was not a person making money. And usually you were close to the blacksmiths. Only the blacksmiths made it. See, now they chop down any tree, everybody makes drums to sell. Before, only a blacksmith could make a drum. Period. That's changed today. See, everything has changed. So that's how I know that when I speak to you, I'm telling you the truth. I know exactly about it. If I don't know, I don't talk about it. And that's how this company has primarily learned. Michael has had their training, this sister, and they're like, you know, sort of the principal people that try to teach, and the other stuff they do. Yeah, then people like me come and say, really?
Yes.
And,
You heard it? You heard it?
yeah, and you study, like just like what y'all are doing. You study, you study, you study, you study, you study. And when you graduate, you study, you study, you study. It never ends. You take it to the grave. You know, so all of us are still studying to this day and still continue to study. You know?
Absolutely.
So that's how you know.
I have just one quick thing to add. And as a company, we went to Africa. So we went to Senegal. And what was so amazing for me is when I learned from other people who have gone, when we went over there, even though we didn't speak the same verbal language, when that drum played Sorsade or Dunumba, the dance steps were the same that we do here. So we had the same language on the dance floor, which was like amazing. So I just felt like, yes, we're doing something authentic. So that was a connection. But just like Papa said, there might be 2 or 3 steps, and then we kind of add what we do. You know, if this is fertility or this is harvest, we add the American touch to it.
And let me just clarify, it's not even really the Americans, because we don't claim to do it. Some African then came in and said, is adding that, and that's why y'all do it. I don't think we come in the group and say, oh, we want to just make up a step and add it because we African, we had nothing. No, this is how the people are coming in and teaching now, and the only time you can get the truth is if somebody says, hey, you know, and then they may say, yeah, and then they'll tell the rest of the people, I'm making my variation, or I'm adding, or this is my nuance, and you know. But it's like many things. Like with debate, is debate going to be of any value if there's not somebody there to be able to say this? That's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. If you could just say the lie with nothing questioning it, after a while, what does he say? It becomes the truth. So you go a lot of places. People who teach you a lot of things that's not true, and because the one that knows the truth won't say it, then it becomes the way it is. So a lot of people run around, they do this, they teach it, oh, it's 8 steps, just like the rhythm. This orchestra you see, there's 3 drums that make up the bass, or what they say the bass. Kenkini, Sangba, Dundu. That's it. Period. That's what we would say, my teacher would say, before. The actual music is only 2 djembes. 2. Only 2 parts for every rhythm. But you go anywhere in this country, if there's 15 guys that got $20 to take class, every one of them getting a part. That African teacher is going to try to give everybody a part, or at least 5, and to get everybody playing. Not like when I was young. See, it was different. But my teacher, if it was 10 people, okay, only you 2 get to play. The rest of y'all have to wait and listen. And then maybe you get a turn, and then he test you, because if you don't come back, see, the ones that learned were the ones that were willing to come back and be disciplined. But yes, you have a question.
Yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
think I would get well.
Yeah.
No.
I wanted to ask him a question. I mean, as you're talking, some things are flying through my head I can really resonate with. So how do you ensure that this doesn't die with you?
Does it?
Doesn't die with you? Are you? Yeah, it's. I know it's a deep question, but I'm a really deep cultural girl.
But I'm gonna say right here, it won't, by young people like you, number one, coming and sharing and making you understand, wow, this is a boy from here, and he's talking about me at home, and I have a responsibility to ensure what he's saying is true, even if I'm not a dancer, but that people know the truth about my culture. That's one way. And then me, myself, like I don't usually talk about this because again, all through things are secret, but I'm a masquerade, I do a lot of masquerade. And so I have a guild, and right now, that's my process. I'm training some young people now. But I had to wait for the right families because again, you can't just teach everybody anything because they'll change it in a short time. They'll use it just to be on stage acting a fool. So
Are you thinking of putting your experience, even though you were taught by somebody, are you thinking of putting it in a book or like a documentary? Because this is going to outlive you. Honestly, you are not going to have the chance, even if you make yourself available, to teach everybody that are either from Africa that are living here or African American, this deep approach you have about this thing. Are you thinking of doing a documentary that can outlive you so that you can put this thing into words? Like you said, the djembe is 2 persons that have to do it, because one of the challenges we even have back home as an African girl is the fact that everybody wants to live in the city. So all of these drumming, all of these things are not there, except if your parents really make effort, and of course the Christianity, the Islamic thing has eroded some of these things. Is you get to learn all of these things when you go to your parents' village, and there is always a witch in the village that wants to kill you. There is always, there's always, of course, there are spirituality. I understand the message of spirituality, but there is always a witch or a wizard, something. So many of us stay far away from even our parents' villages. So don't be surprised that we don't know. Like you said, like a Senegalese can be here and doesn't know it. We don't know it, and besides, we sleep and wake up in this culture, so we didn't see anything special in it until you are far away at the Atlantic Ocean, across the ocean. You miss home, then you want to connect back with what is home. Then you be like, oh, my people used to do this. This is how they greet. This is how they talk, because you miss something. But because we were living and waking up in it, we don't feel like we are missing anything. So, I mean, when you were talking, I really connected, like the bead you were talking about, like, okay, because that's the truth. You don't wear the bead outside, but I see a lot of ladies wearing beads outside. So they say, oh, it's civilization. So, I just want to challenge you that I know you're doing a lot. How do you ensure that this doesn't die with you? It's a challenge in Africa and it's a challenge here too.
Yeah, let me jump in because you're actually looking at it. The answer to your question is happening right now. And I'm going to show you how. What you're saying, I'm preaching. I'll be 66 in December. Bob is older than me. He's my big brother. So 40 years from now, we got 40 years in, I don't suspect I'm gonna be here the next 40 years, right? That's 100 and something, if we don't live that long. So what are we doing to do exactly what you're saying? This young lady right here and Sheena, I am on them to the point of acknowledgement. So you gotta step up. You gotta step up. If Soul Emotion is gonna go, it's because otherwise I will take it, Pam will take it, Baba will take it, we'll all take it to our grave. Right? So we have to continue to inspire our young folks who are coming in that are younger than us, and hopefully have them, first of all, build something that they can appreciate and understand. It's a process. Because we all have our own entrepreneurial ideas of what we want to do. That's one part of it. And then this is my son, as you heard earlier, right? He's documenting this. Right? That's the new form of documentation. Because if we don't document what happens here tonight, it'd be great, we all go home, but did anybody record it? Did anybody record what this sister said or what the brother said in response to, right? So when we had my sister on the Zoom call the other night, it was a history lesson for all of us. And then I got a message from my son that said, Dad, we gotta record Mama, like soon. See, so as a young person in his 20s, he's already getting it, like his mind is working in the sense of documentation. He said that to me unsolicited, Dad, we gotta record Mama like real soon. Because as a 28-year-old, he recognized the knowledge that was being vocalized by her in our Zoom meeting. So your question is right on point. It's right on point, and we're doing the work to do exactly that. Document it, record it. It's a great moment, but if we don't record it, it was just a great moment in the moment. You know, it was, and you're right, because we're all doing all these different things, you know, if you were there, it was great.
Right.
If you weren't there, well, you missed it. So we're trying to do our darnest by more video, more capturing, more, first of all, you gotta meet and talk about the history. Have an opportunity to communicate so Baba can talk and bring it out, we can all, but you gotta then document it. A lot of information that will carry on beyond our presence at the moment. And let me just say this one thing too, on the piggyback on the question about the teaching. So, a lot of people, and I just feel that You know, at some point I guess I was cocky 20-year-old saying, but you know what? I grew up in Philadelphia. I grew up in North Philadelphia. My experience is not Mama Nikita's experience. It couldn't be. Because I grew up in North Philly. I don't know if you ever visited North Philly. So I'm going to give an expression that is truly North Philadelphia. And so if I learn the rule, but I want to be able to express me, what's my thing? And be comfortable in that. And should be able to do that. Wherever you're from. The folks from Cambodia. I didn't grow up in Cambodia, but these two people did. So what's that say to your body? What's that do to your thing? Insert that, and that's your expression. You don't have to be in a box. Oh, I took an African dance class, I gotta do it exactly like that. No. Learn it, and then put your thing in it. Be proud of who you are, put your thing in it. But if somebody asks you and say, what was that dance? You can speak to it and say, hey, that dance was from the Bobby people, and know what it is that you are, adapting. But don't squash who you are. We all have different experiences, and be proud of those experiences. And be able to insert them into the things that you're learning. Be it knowledge through a book, through a class, through a video, whatever that is. You will find your voice. And write your own book based on your studies. That's your book. Because you're telling your experience based on all these things. We just had this conversation today. Simone and I just had a short conversation in the cafeteria about your experience. Getting the knowledge, the information, and putting your thing in. Where's your voice? Where's your place? Who are you? All of that. And not be so compressed where you gotta suffer trying to find your voice. Your voice is your voice. And be able to answer the question, well, what was the inspiration for that paper? What was the inspiration for that book, or that video, or that dance, or that play? What was the inspiration? And speak to the inspirations. Oh, I saw this, I read this, and then have you heard about this? And then when I grew, da 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 da. And your voice will begin to manifest. You start saying, wow, that's uniquely you.
So, I'm gonna share something with you that these people don't even got, because you asked the right question. See, that's the other thing, true. A real teacher don't look for students. The student finds the teacher. So you asked, how am I documenting things? So you get your phone, I'm gonna send this to you. Okay? Because this is some work I just completed in Mali. This is a new math that we have my guild for my group. It's called Kono Wulukulu. So we just went to this village to talk to people because this math never has left there. So we have to make offerings to the leader, they call the farmer, that's the farmer. That's the head man of that town. It's a little gold mining town. You know from home we have to make an offering, a sacrifice. Some animal have to be killed, some things have to be done. Everybody had to eat. It was a whole big thing. So this is the day that they did this festival for us before giving us the mass to come here. So I'm going to send this to you, okay?
Okay.
So you see the process that we're using to do what you said. How is this going to be after?
Can I just add something real quick while you're doing that?
Mm-hmm.
On the discussion of teaching and making sure that what you're learning is authentic and all of that, and how important it is to learn the tradition before you add improvisation. Because it's difficult to improvise when there's no structure, you know, and I know for me when I dance, I always expect that there's somebody in the audience that's gonna know the tradition.
Yeah.
And so I wanna make sure that, you know, the basics are correct. Because with certain rhythms, particularly with Manding, rhythms. You're dancing to the rhythm. Most of the time, the rhythm is a 4/4, and everything's got to fold in. The footwork is following the drum. And so, if there's not that at all, more than likely there's improvisation without the tradition. And so that's what I'm always doing. It's like, what are the basics? What am I supposed to know that, you know, you can't throw it out, you know? And we all saw the example, you know, of the Olympics and the Australian breakdancer, that her thing was, well, I just want to be creative. But everybody's critique of it, yes, it's a popular dance, was born or originated from the streets, but there was structure, there's a genre, there's, you know, different movements have a name.
Rules.
And so everybody knew right away that was not it. And so that's the similar thing that I, you know, want to bring, you know, to that, and I think that's a lot of, when we get into these, you know, communities and we perform and we talk about African dance, that we have to remember to share that African dance is a genre. The same way you learn contemporary dance, the same way you learn modern, jazz, ballet, African dance is a genre. And there's certain movements, there's a certain position just with ballet. When you start, you know, first position, second position, you know, if your hips are not flexed, if your feet are not, you know, in first position parallel, if your knees are not in plie, most of the movements you're gonna have trouble getting into. So there is structure, there's a framework, you know, to traditional African dance, and even, you know, the dances that have been improvised and created and that have become a ballet. There's a structure to that, and you do want to find instructors that can bring clarity. There are instructors that have a performance edge, that when they teach them, it's a performance kind of thing. And then there are teachers that teach with clarity, that they can tell you if you should be on the ball of your foot versus the flat foot, if you're undulating your torso, you know, if you know, your arms, your head, if everything is involved, they'll tell you exactly what needs to happen. So I just wanted to add that.
I have so many questions, but I would also want to respect students' time. We've been here long. And I want to make sure that everyone gets rest so that they can come and do drumming and dancing tomorrow at 12:30 Tustin Theater. I need everyone to do a survey, so scan the QR code even.